Naveen Girn, it's incredible CV here. Co-curator for the Museum of Vancouver's exhibit Bangra Me, Vancouver's Bangra Story, which received an award for excellence from the Canadian Museum Association and was a total blast. He also worked on SFU's Komagata Maru project, which is on the web at komagataMaruJourney.ca, and bringing the 100-year-old story to life online. And currently he's co-curating Spectacular Sangeet, an exhibition on translations of South Asian music and dance into Bollywood poster collage. I couldn't have made that up myself. Kinetic photo sculpture, new media, and more. And it's opening at the Surrey Art Gallery the day after tomorrow, April the 13th. Please welcome Naveen Girn.
Do I really smile that big when I smile? Hashtag smiling Girn. I have a story here that I want to read to you. It's from one of the earliest texts of South Asian Canadian history. It was a fiction story that was semi-autobiographical. And it's about this guy named Maluka who lived on Fraser Street. And the book starts out with him saying, the ceaseless flow of the river fascinated Maluka. This is the Fraser River. The smooth, silent movement of the water made him feel at home, for the Fraser was much like the Sutlej gliding through the plains of the Punjab. It was much easier to become intimate with the river than with the unknown people in a strange country. That was this link between geographies and rivers and how they cut across time and space and bind people together. When that story was written, this was the major meeting point for the South Asian community. It's the first Sikh temple in North America, and it was here in Vancouver, built in 1908. Jessica Kwan is here from the Vancouver Heritage Foundation, and the Vancouver Heritage Foundation put a plaque to recognize this space. It was a place that wasn't just a religious place. It was a cultural space, a political space, an economic place. And this picture was found in a family archive. And the cool thing about it was, of course, the people who are there, but at the very bottom, there's that shiny silver logo. And it's this. And for those of you who know, it's the Yucho Chow studio that was on Main Street. So the Yucho Chow studio was this very famous photo studio on Main Street. And the South Asian community, he was their go-to photographer. So it was Vaisakhi, it was an anniversary, a special dignitary who was coming, Yucho Chow would come. And so what my work is, it revolves around trying to unearth these not silenced, but forgotten histories of intercultural communication, intercultural interaction, and how they go back way beyond multiculturalism in the 70s, how it goes back to the early parts of Vancouver itself. And in some respects, there's positive stories and negative stories. This is one of those negative ones. This is a picture of the Chinatown race riots in 1907 that was led by, among other people, the mayor of the city at the time. And the reason I like this picture so much is because it has this really interesting tripartite structure. You have the Caucasian police officers on the right-hand side. You have the shop owners in the center who have of Asian descent. And on the very left-hand side, there's a dude with a turban. And the interesting thing about this story is that in Bellingham, just a couple of days before this race riot, there was another race riot in Bellingham. And all the South Asian men who were there, because mostly of them were men, came up to Vancouver and then they got caught in another race riot. And again, actually, and the interesting thing about this picture too, was that it was taken by a very young politician at the time named William Mackenzie King, who later became the Prime Minister of Canada. But yeah, it's cool, isn't it? But that's the thing about it, is that these intercultural histories always go together. And we mentioned Chinatown being this really vibrant space of dialogue, interaction. This is a picture of a newspaper that was printed in Chinatown in 1913. There was a freedom movement for Indian independence that was based out of North America. Unlike the one that was based in India, this was a violent one. And it was based in San Francisco, but also had a printing press here in Vancouver. And this is called the Hindustani. And it was actually printed right on Main Street, just 2 blocks from Powell. And again, one of these spaces of intercultural interaction with the South Asian community was mixing on a daily basis with the Chinese community at the time. And you actually have articles in this paper that talk about the best restaurants for Chinese food are in Vancouver. And again, as a document of the time period, it speaks to the everyday lives of people, where they went to shop, what it was like seeing first-time impressions of the city. One of the cool things, thank you, one of the cool things about that is that on the boat, when this editor by the name of Hussein Rahim, when he comes on a boat to Vancouver, he talks about the beauty of Stanley Park and the beauty of the mountains. And you can imagine that because he still experiences it today. And those geographies bind us through time. And then, of course, this, the Kamagadamaroo, 1914, the 100th anniversary of that, which will be coming up next year. On the very far left-hand side is Gurdit Singh, who is the charter of the ship of the Kamagadamaroo, and he's there with the staff of the boat, Captain Yamamoto and his crew. The Kamagadamaroo, of course, is a South Asian story, but it was a Japanese ship from Hong Kong. So it has these other interesting histories in it. So that's the work I do, telling these stories of dialogue, telling these stories of intercultural interaction. Working on the Kamagadamaroo project, I got to speak with Gurdit Singh's. For those who don't know, the Kamagadamaroo was a ship that wasn't allowed to dock in Vancouver. It was docked in the harbor for 2 months and then sent back at gunpoint, literally by the Canadian Navy, back to India, and Hong Kong, then India. But Gurdit Singh, his great-grandson, came to Canada, and I interviewed him for the Kamagadamaroo project. And I said, "You are the dream of your great-grandfather being in Canada. How does it make you feel?" And of course, what a stupid question to ask because he's going to start crying. But the point was that there are these histories of people striving to come, but when they come, those everyday stories exist, but don't exist in the archive. They exist in personal memory boxes. They exist in the attic. And so in a sense, what we have to do, or my work entails, is that my work entails finding those stories, giving them a space to be heard, and in a real sense, expanding the dialogue of what it means to be Canadian and the histories of Canada. Thank you.